Hey guys, thank you so much for purchasing the Snips half zip fleece. They're now on sale and they're selling really fast. I really appreciate the support, guys. This is my favorite merch that I've made so far. So if you want to grab one now's the time. And it's linked down below in the description. If you are a member, you get 15% off with the code that's given to you once you become a member, and that's at any tier. So go grab one now, link in the description. Thanks so much, guys. I love this one. It's very comfortable and it's pretty awesome. It looks pretty good. So yeah, see you guys in the next vid.
We would be honored if you would join us.
So Shin Hati in the AHSOKA show is a newcomer, and she's pretty freaking cool. I gotta say, I'm really interested in her character story, her character arc, where she comes from, and why she still has a Jedi braid despite wielding an orange lightsaber, which is quite indicative of her using dark side powers. So doing a little bit of math, I came to the conclusion that Shin Hati wasn't at the Jedi Temple at all. And so if that's the case, where did she come from? And why is she so loyal to Baylan? Who is she to him? My thoughts and theory are that she is his daughter. In the AHSOKA show, we find out that Baylan was actually a Jedi during the time of the Republic. He fought in the Clone Wars, and at the end of it, he escaped during Order 66. Baylan seems to be maybe 50 or 55 years old at the time of AHSOKA, which takes place about 5 years after Return of the Jedi. This puts him around the similar age as Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars. And seeing as how Shin Hati is probably maybe 20 years old at best, or heck, let's say even 25. Now, the events of AHSOKA takes place after the events of Boba Fett. And according to Jon Favreau, Boba Fett was a 2-year gap from Season 2 to Season 3. This means that AHSOKA is probably somewhere around 7 years after Return of the Jedi. So, Revenge of the Sith takes place in 19 BBY, which is 19 years before A New Hope. 4 years after A New Hope, or 4 ABY, after Battle of Yavin, is when Return of the Jedi ends. And the AHSOKA show is 9 ABY, so 5 years after that event, after the Emperor and Darth Vader die. Meaning there's about 28 years from the time of Revenge of the Sith, Order 66, the end of the Clone Wars, and where we're at now in AHSOKA. If we really factor in the fact that there's another 2 years from Season 2 and 3 to get to the Boba Fett show, then we can confidently say that it's about 30 years after Revenge of the Sith. But I don't really know if I buy that. I think Jon Favreau was kind of just under pressure and had to say that. But anyways, let's go with it. 30 years. So if we take the age of 50, which is what Baylan is, or let's say 55, let's subtract 30 years. This makes him 25 years old. Anakin, during Revenge of the Sith, was 22 years old. This means they were about the same age. So since there's about a 30-year gap, I don't think Shin Hati is 30 years old, which means that she was definitely raised at some point in time as a baby, or born, in other words, after the events of Revenge of the Sith, which means that she never saw the Jedi, she never knew Anakin, or Yoda, or Mace Windu, or anybody like that. I believe that she is Baylan's child. She is Baylan's daughter, and Baylan raised her in the ways of the Force, in the ways of it being a Jedi, a Padawan. However, somewhere along the lines from being a Jedi, he obviously became disillusioned with the ways of the Jedi, either for pure survival, or maybe he was in some scenarios where he had to use all aspects of the Force in order to save his baby, and maybe lost his wife in the process. Maybe this is what made him turn to the dark side. But I really like this sort of Bane kind of relationship where it's Bane and Xana. So I think that Shin Hati is actually Baylan's daughter, and she was born much after the end of the Clone Wars, after Order 66. And this to me is really refreshing because we don't have someone that knew the ways of the Jedi. This is someone who has been completely trained by Baylan. And who is he? What does he know? Well, nobody really knows. All we know is that he is extremely powerful with the Force and definitely a formidable opponent against AHSOKA. Not to mention from the trailers, we also know that he is knowledgeable about Anakin, and everyone at the temple knew who he was. Meaning that he was at the temple, definitely. So it makes me wonder, who is Baylan's master? Because that's really all it comes down to. Whoever trained Baylan, we can kind of get a sense of how powerful Baylan is and how powerful Shin Hati will be. If, let's say, Yarael Poof trained Baylan, I mean, that's going to be a little bit different. No shade to Yarael Poof, but he's no Yoda. He's no Mace Windu. or even, like a Plo Koon. So I'm thinking, depending on who his master is, then we can properly assess more about him and Shin Hati. I personally think that these two characters are very mysterious and they're really interesting. I love the fact that these two have survived Order 66 and the fact that she was not at the temple, and despite using an orange lightsaber, which is indicative of the dark side, she still carries a Jedi braid. To me, this says that they are still using aspects of the Jedi, but also using aspects of the dark side, kind of a broader use of the Force. And what reasons do they now have an orange lightsaber? To me, it's kind of like them being a dark Jedi. They're not really a Jedi and they're not a Sith, but they're more so dark Jedi, using aspects of both sides of the Force, and maybe both ideologies of the Sith and the Jedi. Another thing that also stood out to me was when Baylan addressed the captain of the ship that he came to in the very first episode at the very beginning. He politely just wanted to walk by him and go to Elsbeth and free her from her prison cell. However, once he was stopped and antagonized and insulted, that's when he went right through the captain and everyone else to get what he wanted. But his first plan of action wasn't to just kill everyone. He wanted to go peacefully and do what he wanted and not hurt anybody. But if you get in his way, he's going to get you out of it. And nothing will stop him, in the words of Ray Stevenson himself in an interview. May he rest in peace. So, personally, I'm really intrigued as to who Shin Hati is, and of course Baylan, but I think the fact that she was born after the events of Order 66, wherever she was born, in whatever environment, is a story all in of itself, where we could maybe see what Baylan had to go through to raise this little girl, to raise this Force-sensitive child that clearly is extremely gifted, but also very dark and sullen and quiet and mysterious. I think I'm as excited to learn about their backstory as I am to continue the rest of the show and to learn about everything else and see Thrawn and Ezra and all that. So let me know what you guys think about Shin Hati. Who do you think she is? Do you think she was born after the events of Order 66? Why do you think she has an orange lightsaber? And why do you think she still has a Jedi braid, a Padawan braid? They both clearly say that they're not Jedi in the beginning of episode 1, so what could this mean? Seems like the show is giving us a broader aspect of Force users, as AHSOKA was a former Jedi Knight, as outlined in the crawl, and Baylan and Shin are definitely not Jedi either, but still seem to be respectful of Jedi traditions. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.